my pet theory of what happened on Twitter, and this would be very Elon-esque, was that like 2 months ago, he went in and said, all right, wipe everyone's reputation on Twitter back to 0. And so no matter how many followers you had, no matter how many, anything, it was basically like everyone started over. And so because I felt it, a lot of people felt it, where their reach was just randomly lower. They went and changed something where it was kind of like an even playing field. And so you had 2 choices at that time. You could complain about it, or you could say, what do I do when I would start a new account? The answer is
What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Stick Talk podcast. We are on episode 7 of 7 in 32 hours in Miami here. Best for last, Dickie Bush. What's going on, man?
props to you guys for grinding out 7 episodes in 2 days.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Appreciate it, bro. Appreciate
Putting
it.
up Brady
Well done.
numbers, you know?
That's right. Well done. Well done. Well, thanks for squeezing me in here at the end.
Absolutely, bro. This is pretty cool. We're in the Shipyard, your new studio here in Miami. And I think you said we're the first ever
First one's
video
in here.
recorder.
First one's in here.
Yeah.
First, before I've even recorded anything. So
It's
shout
an
out
honor.
you guys. Yeah, you guys got to do all the technical know-how
Break it in.
as we try to break this place
It's
in.
an honor.
Hell yeah.
We're
I want to
excited.
start. I think a good way to introduce you would be to just talk through what was on this board here before. Because there are a bunch of quotes, hashtags, all that sort of stuff.
Okay, so going through each of them, this is great podcasting. So we have Ship 30 for 30, Premium Ghostwriting Academy, Espresso Hour, and then our handles. So Ship 30 for 30 is a cohort-based writing course, helps beginners start writing on the internet. That's kind of been our flagship program for the last 3 years, coming up on almost a 3-year anniversary. And then Premium
Congrats.
Ghostwriting Academy is a group coaching, helps freelancers become premium ghostwriters. So rather than selling their time, selling per word, all that kind of stuff. So my business partner, Nicholas Cole, is on there. And so that we've been working together, and we just built this place ready to go a lot harder on YouTube and regular video content.
Hell yeah,
so,
man.
How'd you meet your business partner? Now?
So I was just flipping through my email because I added it. We did like a Twitter thread breaking down this entire build.
Okay.
And 3 years ago on Monday will be 3 years since we met.
Wow.
And it's a cold email from someone
Let's go.
literally a cold email from someone that I was doing some writing for
Okay.
and was also his mentor. And the subject line says, connecting Dickie Bush and Nicholas Cole. And the email says, not sure why, but I think you two should know each other. And that's it.
That was it.
That was it, and the
no
rest is
agenda.
history. Seriously.
That is
crazy.
unbelievable,
Wow. Yeah.
bro. And then you guys, what happened? You guys just set up a meeting and
So
just
it
right
was.
away?
I was still working for BlackRock at the time.
Okay.
And I still remember 2 weeks later we were trying to set up a Zoom to jam. He's like, "Yeah, let's hit like a Zoom coffee." And I remember almost skipping the meeting because I had like 3 shitty Wall Street corporate meetings that day. I was like, I don't want to talk to this guy right now. Like I'm busy. And then took the Zoom. We ended up partnering up in January of 21.
Okay.
So 4 or 5 months later, and then I spent the next year still working on Wall Street, but doing Ship 30 on the side. And then May of 22, left Wall Street, moved to Miami, and then here we are 1 year after
year
that.
later.
So
Crazy, man.
3 years.
So, Ship 30 for 30, writing on the internet. Do you want to just walk us through what exactly that means? Like when someone joins, what are they looking to accomplish in your program? What do you help them accomplish? And some of your, obviously you have a million success stories, but what are some of your rock star success stories that you have?
So to paint the full picture of Ship 30, makes sense to start where I was. Because the origin of Ship 30 came from, I started writing on the internet in January of 20. So before COVID, pre-COVID, January 2020. And spent 9 months writing on a blog that no one ever read, except my mom, basically. And spent 9 months doing that because I knew I wasn't going to work on Wall Street forever. And then, but I didn't want to quit. So I'm stuck in New York City, horrible lifestyle, all that kind of stuff that you guys probably know people who've done. And so rather than quit, I said, okay, can I pursue some opportunities passively by putting my thoughts out there? I was kind of on a personal growth journey at the time. And 9 months in, I was very stuck. And I had 200 email subscribers. I had 50 people reading each blog post. I said, all right, this clearly isn't working. So instead, I'm going to write 30 Twitter threads in 30 days and see what happens. And if nothing good happens, I'm done writing on the internet forever. And if something good happens, I'm glad I did it. So day 28, I still remember I hit publish, and I got 0 likes, 0 comments, 0 retweets. It was like I was doing nothing all over again. Like I had a fresh account. Like, okay.
2 more tries.
Exactly. So I figured I was going to give up at that point, but I was like, forget it. I'll finish it out. Fast forward day 29, I hit publish on something, went to bed, woke up the next day, it went viral, thousands of likes. I went from 200 to 2,000 email subscribers. Like Naval retweeted the thread. Still to this day, one of my most read ones.
Yeah. Wow.
And I can point pretty much everything good in my life back to hitting publish on day 29. And so a month after that, I realized, well, one, I'm clearly onto something with this write every day. You don't know what's going to happen.
Yep.
But I knew if I wanted to continue doing it myself, I needed some accountability.
Wow.
So the original Ship 30 cohort was just a Slack group where I tweeted it out saying, hey, I just did it for 30 days. It was really hard. Does anyone want to do this with me? And then had 200 people joining in that Slack group at that point, and really we've been running it from there. So I tell that whole story because Ship 30 is basically for anyone who knows they should be writing on the internet, they haven't started for whatever reason, and they want to do it with a group, and they want guidance on how to actually do it well rather than waste their time writing on blogs, all that kind of beginner mistakes that I made. And then how that connects with Cole is he also got his start by writing a Quora answer every single day for a year.
Wow.
And so when he saw Ship 30, he's like, dude, this is exactly what I did.
Yeah.
But he's written a book called The Art and Business of Online Writing, which is, I think, the Bible for anyone who wants to get started writing on the internet. And so the Ship 30 curriculum is really taking his book, applying the accountability of having 500 people around you writing with you. And that's the basics of it.
What was that thread on day 29?
It was a curation of Balaji's top thoughts about the world. So Balaji's pretty famous right now in the crypto world. And you guys know who Balaji is. Balaji Srinivasan.
Yeah.
Okay.
He betted like Bitcoin.
Yeah, so he's gotten a lot of hype for Bitcoin stuff, but he basically predicted he's just got to be one of the highest IQ people. And so I heard him on a podcast and I listened to like 4 or 5. After that, I was like, I just got to write down what this guy said about the world so I remember it. And then I tweeted it out and Naval retweeted it, a bunch of kind of famous people. And then I'm like on the phone with him, figuring it out after that, like, yo, this was cool. And so I realized the power of just putting things out there.
That's so funny because like normally 0 likes, it's really hard to pick up any kind of steam. And then you just woke up to a viral thread.
The next day, yeah.
Wow.
Unbelievable. I want to backtrack a little bit because most of the guys that we have on here, they start young, they're flipping shoes, they're drop shipping, they're doing all these different things. If they went to college, they weren't paying attention, they dropped out, then they started a business. You're pretty much the exact opposite. Like by all measures of like normal success, you're killing it. You're an Ivy League guy, you're working on Wall Street, you're at BlackRock. Like what was that thing that just made you say like, this isn't for me?
Realizing that entire path that I was thought my entire life I was doing correctly led me to being 24 years old, working on a team and seeing someone 10 years older than me on a path that I knew I wanted to take, ask for permission to go to his son's Little League game.
Ooh.
Oh yeah.
And it was over. It was over after that. I heard that and I'm sitting here. I went home that night after work and I didn't break down, but I was just walking around my room saying, is everything good grades, playing sports, studying hard in school, like internships, all that kind of BS they set you up for at any kind of Ivy League school, got me to where everyone I knew that was older was miserable, had a pretty poor family relationship, and had golden handcuffs where they inflated their lifestyle all the way up. And so I said, I need to make a change right now.
Yeah.
And that was what started the origin of me eventually writing.
So you start like plotting out the escape plan.
Literally plotting like Shawshank's Revenge. Yeah. I have to claw my way out of here.
But like, I guess why writing as the vehicle then? Because this is 2020. So there's tons of other different opportunities. I would say writing would be pretty far down on the list at that time of like the most popular, quote unquote, like biz op ways to get started. Yeah.
So there are a couple of reasons. One, I was actually doing some writing internally at BlackRock at the time. Okay. I was writing a newsletter where I would summarize the morning data reports and any news that would happen. And I sent it to 400, 500 people at the firm, and some people high up were reading it. So I was reflecting on that, thinking, okay, I've clearly gathered attention from, the people I look up to by doing this, but the upside is capped because it could only ever go to people who were inside Wall Street or inside BlackRock at the time.
Yeah.
So then I said, why don't I just kind of do the same thing I'm doing, but to the whole internet?
Yeah.
And that would more than likely unlock some kind of opportunity, which luckily is exactly what happened. But instead of writing about finance, because I was so terrified that if I put anything out about markets or finance or Wall Street, that I'd get fired.
Yeah.
So I instead just said, what are the personal growth podcasts and things that I'm listening to? Why don't I just go share that? Free upside, right? Worst case, I better understood it. Worst case, which is exactly what happened, you meet interesting people, find new opportunities, all of that. So
Yeah.
I didn't ever go down like the drop shipping rabbit hole.
Yeah.
All of that. I like at the time I was kind of convinced that the internet as a whole was still a scam, because
Yeah.
I'm on this like, Wall Street, this is a prestigious path, like anyone who does things on the internet. And then as I got more and more in the world, I'm like, no, this is a legitimate place.
Yeah.
And Money Twitter kind of just baptized me back then.
That's super cool. So what's the road look like to monetization? Because I understand everything that you did, but I mean, you could make 1,000 threads about what Naval said or what Joe Rogan said or what these guys said, but like, how do you actually make money from it?
So I went from doing that accountability cohort with Ship 30,
Yep.
and all it was a Slack channel. And then from there, I said, I got to charge something. But I was so terrified too, so I charged $50, and I gave everyone their money back if they finished all 30 days. Because the first time you charge anything, like literally, and I'm here with like a spreadsheet counting people's posts. Do I give them their money back? Like, did they finish everything? Wiring money in and out, like getting flagged by PayPal.
Yeah.
And then I said, okay, clearly I'm onto something. And I held one-on-one interviews with every single person who went through that initial cohort. And they all said, dude, this is exactly what I'm looking for. I want to write, but I want to surround myself with other people who are at the same stage on the journey as I am. And so the next cohort was $99. And then that was going into January of 21. And I think it got 200, 300 people. So I made 30 grand in that first cohort.
Yeah.
And my goal when I started to write was to make $10,000 on the internet in a year. Because it was like $1,000 at the time. Yeah, I was making 100 grand or 150 as a Wall Street worker, whatever. But that does not go a far way in New York City. Rent,
With
taxes, all of that.
taxes,
Like
oh
my
my God.
after tax, after expenses take home was like a couple $100 a month. I'm like, this is a scam on
Yeah.
top of all the other things. Like I've been
Living in New York City. Yeah.
Exactly. And so that completely broke my brain. But before that, I had done some ghostwriting services where I was making, $5K for a client here and there. But the first true monetization where it was that January Ship 30 cohort.
Which is awesome. What are some of the guys, like Christian was asking, like success stories? Like, are there any like star students that stick out from that original cohort?
From that original cohort, it's kind of like picking children, where if I went and sat down and looked at this, I would say right now on Twitter, there are at least, I would wager, we haven't done enough numbers actually breaking it down, but 20 to 25 people with over 100 to 200,000 followers that have taken Ship 30 at some point. Now, what the beautiful part about it is a lot of people will take it and that's all they needed was that initial spark, and then they go find their own direction, right? Some go on LinkedIn, some go on Instagram, some they write for 2 days and they land a new client for their whatever business, and they write to me 6 months later and say, hey man, I just want you to know I didn't finish all 30 days of Ship 30, but all it took was me to write 3 pieces, and now all this X, Y, and Z happened.
Yeah. So the monetization model was showing other people how to write online, right? Which is what Dan was getting after.
Yeah.
So what's the sales pitch, or what's the pitch to anyone out there as to why they should write online if they're not going to sell their own program, of why others should write online?
I would say, because this conversation is only happening because I've been putting out content on the internet. I would say the 15 people that I talk to the most on a weekly basis at this point, I met because I wrote something and they liked it and we had a conversation afterwards.
Yeah.
And for anyone who, we talk about this, where when you're growing up, you're limited to the people on your street or at your school or on your sports team. And for a lot of us, myself especially, I never fully clicked with a lot of those people. I saw the world potentially a different way. I think I have an obsessive personality, which you find other people on the internet because of that. And so I would say you unlock the opportunity where the internet democratizes access to good friendship, where you can find people who are interested in the same things as you, but you have to go and put yourself out there with all the ideas. Right? So we're friends because we're interested in similar things. But if someone has a hyper niche interest where they look around their entire school and think they're a complete weirdo,
Yeah.
they might be, but they, they
Look at this cold email.
exactly. Right. But then you put things out there and you find 100, 200 other people who are interested in the same thing.
Yeah.
That's the biggest pitch, is the relationships that it unlocks, which then goes to unlock everything else.
Yep. So my question is, I obviously write cold emails, and I have a really hard time teaching someone else how to write. because sales, there's like frameworks you can follow. I mean, I know you're going to tell me that there's templates and frameworks, but you know, a lot of things have X's and O's, whereas writing is just like, it can go any which way. So how do you silo your teachings and show someone how to really write properly, or not properly, but in a way that garners attention?
There are a couple different directions you could go with that. First would be the basic copywriting frameworks, the ADA frameworks. Those are the basics that you study, you read the books, you see it in action, and you go, okay, wow, okay. That's kind of what clicked for me, because I was a computer science math major. I hated writing in school. I took one freshman English class and never wanted to write again. But once I realized it's kind of like programming, but you figure out small tweaks and templates to use. That's on the tactical side. I would say for anyone who's uncomfortable writing in general, stop trying to write and just record yourself having a conversation and just write those words down. And that's your initial writing voice. And then, yeah, you can tweak it to make it more persuasive or more emphatic and more interesting.
Sure.
But that's how I got my start. Was I don't know how to put words down on a page. Why don't I just talk and transcribe it?
Is that like the first module?
First thing. Yeah. In Ship 30, we say start just having a conversation about whatever it is you're interested in with a friend and record it. And there's going to be 10 content ideas and the exact words that you should use.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's more natural to just have a discussion with someone else.
Right.
Instead of just, that's been my thing always, is instead of trying to speak directly to an audience, it's so much easier like in a conversation like this, where you're just bouncing off each other's ideas and flowing that way. I guess one of my questions is like, one of the objections or things that comes to mind of like, okay, write online, but about what?
About what? When you say, okay. So we call this the 2-year test. 2 years is the easiest way to figure out what you should write about. And so I'll use you guys for example. And if you remember from the keynote, I did it with Daniel.
Literally, for anyone watching this, Dickie came through to our event in Tampa last year, the Client Ascension event.
Right there. No, it'll be on the page.
There's not going to be a way to link it here.
Yeah.
But if you said it's the #1 video on your YouTube channel, right? So if you just look up Dickie Bush's YouTube channel, the #1 video is almost at 10K views, was the keynote from our event. And Dan, the first thing you said when we walked in is like, guys in our program still talk about that.
Because they come in with the same limiting belief that like you somewhat expressed a minute ago of like, hey, like writing is so like, it's all creative, this and that. And you broke it down so tactically that it's like, hey, this is literally a foolproof plan. Here's an abundance of proof that it works. Here's exactly how you do it. And like sit down for 30 minutes and you'll be able to come up with 100 pieces of content.
I'd say the #1 thing holding people back from writing is getting over the fear of sharing something that's completely and utterly obvious to you, but incredibly valuable to other people. So every one of us have a unique set of experiences, hobbies, skills, life transitions that they could write about. But because we live every day with all of those sitting top of mind, we're like, no one would possibly care about what I have to say. So we call it the 2-year test, where you just look back and you list out basically everything you've done over the last 2 years. So skills, hobbies, whatever you've done. And those are your potential things to talk about. And we don't need to go down the full like 4A framework. People can go watch that if they want to. But getting what I should write about is just talk about what you've done. I tweeted the other day, most of success on the internet is just doing things in the real world and then talking about them. So figure out what you've done in the real world over the last 2 years and then go talk about it, because so few people actually do that you stand out if you say, hey, here's what I've done and here's what's working for me and here's what I'm interested in.
So this is interesting because we're having this debate internally as a team over at Client Ascension, where it's like we want to be super focused on like just cold email, just client acquisition, just like these things that are very particular about just the agency life and how to funnel people into our program, essentially, right? But then we have Christian who's making TikToks that are going viral on like a whole bunch of different shit, right? About the fact that women shouldn't be working 9 to 5 corporate jobs, and it's great. It lands. I mean, the funnel is full.
It's a landing clients, man. You know your avatar, right?
Different type of client, right? So like, how do you balance that between like, hey, I run a Facebook ads agency. I want to make all my content about paid media, which to the outside can be pretty boring, versus like, hey, I want to talk about the fact that I live in Tampa, which is the best city ever, or I love jiu-jitsu, or like I love sports. Like, how do you balance that?
He wants to answer.
No, I'm kidding.
How do you answer?
No, you go. I'll go after. We'll debate.
You're settling the debate for us, so.
Well, I would say you can talk about all those things. There's going to be a ratio for sure. But no one only wants to read about your Facebook paid agency ad content. So you need a little bit of that personality. I would say it's probably 80% educational, actionable information. And then 20% you have to just sprinkle in that you're a real human. especially in ChatGPT and all this world, people want to learn from people who are doing other things rather than just the thing they're talking about.
I think you need people to like you as a person before you have them interested in your skill. Especially for like B2C, like getting them interested in you as a person and then them funneling naturally into your technical shit. Like, oh, I like what you're saying. You sound really informative and educational. What do you do? Oh, you do this. That's interesting. I want to learn more, especially because you told me.
Right.
You know what I mean?
It just differentiates you.
Yeah.
So we say there are 4 types of content you can make: actionable, analytical, anthropological, and aspirational. So we call it the 4A framework. Most of educational content is going to be actionable or analytical. You're going to be breaking something down or showing someone how to do something. But the more you can share your story or just little aspirational things, because at the end of the day, anyone buying something from you also kind of wants a little piece of your lifestyle if it's B2C. So you have to share those other things that you're interested in.
Yeah. And I mean, for me, like the cool part about short form videos, I mean, this is a crazy setup, but like TikTok loves the raw video. So I'll just like hop on camera and talk for 2 minutes and post it. Like, it's not like a crazy process. Like, I need to deliberate 4 hours to this hole. I can just, oh, I'm on a walk. Let me just.
Are you getting client Ascension clients from TikTok?
Not specifically. It's like normies.
Oh, gotcha.
But the funnel.
I've never downloaded TikTok, so
funnel
I
is
don't
like
never, because I know that the second I'm scrolling that thing,
the algorithm
I'm in.
really
I'm
good
in.
too. I don't
It's
even
gonna get
scroll.
my
I go on
brain,
and
bro,
post
and it's
and
just
that's
I'm
it.
4 hours are gonna be gone.
Yeah.
I have enough with Twitter and Instagram.
Yeah.
It's already enough.
Yeah. I have had people DM me like off platform on Twitter, like, yo, I saw your TikTok. How do I learn about cold emails?
Omnipresent awareness. You're just everywhere.
Yep.
So
it's just fun.
So 80-20, that's the rule.
Seriously, 80-20. I mean,
Makes sense.
you look at what I post about most of the time, it's writing or personal growth, but then I throw in that I'm cold plunging or eating steak or doing jujitsu or drinking
That's part of
espresso
your brand,
or
the espresso.
exactly, right? So
and sparkling water.
exactly. The little things that again, it goes back to what are the things that are obvious to me when I take a picture of my espresso and someone goes, I've never drank an espresso before. All I drink is regular coffee. Like what?
That's why
what
you're
is
broke.
it? You need Mountain Valley, of course, too. It's like, dude, I got some DMs from someone that was like, have you ever thought about the fact that not everyone can afford $3 water? Because I'm putting a picture of
posted a
Mountain
video
Valley
about
all the
that
time, and I'm
too.
like,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, dude. I don't know what. I haven't thought about that. I'm enjoying my $3 water. I just haven't thought about that. It is what it is. Like,
I don't have time to pay attention.
Yeah.
I'm just so properly hydrated right now.
sorry, I can't hear you. I don't have any fluoride in my brain from the tap water.
I made a
dude.
TikTok like I spend $400 on water and coffee every month, and some finance guru like reposted
It's like the Johnny Manziel video.
Yeah, I got too much
too much
Mountain
fucking-
Valley in my
I
head.
got too much fucking money to spend on Mountain Valley. We gotta get you a Topo Chico sponsorship.
Seriously, I need something.
love
We actually
that.
looked into Mountain Valley, but I don't think they sponsor anyone. Because I was driving and people were like, people thought I was sponsored by them
They're dropping
because
the
I was just
ball.
putting a bunch of them. I'm like, I wish.
Yeah.
dropping the ball.
Yeah, seriously.
Damn, bro. That's hilarious. What's the growth strategy for you now? Like at a certain point, like you've reached 300,000 followers on Twitter. Like, what is the goal now? Is it to continue to grow there, or to disperse it out to other platforms?
Right now, it's just keep the Twitter train going. I've written enough tweets and threads and things like that where I've kind of said, for the most part, I know what people are interested in. I still tweet random ideas at least once a day, but I have 3 or 4 tweets that go out most days where I know that this is educational information that someone new who's never seen me before that I've tweeted about in the past would benefit from seeing now. So I do a lot of repurposing on that.
How much of that is just repurposing, scheduling content versus just like stream of consciousness, just tweeting and putting it out?
I would say 50-50. So 50-50. That's the thing. You have to have the stream of consciousness where raw ideas come out.
Yeah.
But then I have to play the hits that I know people are going to be interested in, right? Because it
Love that.
works.
Play the hits.
It's like a jukebox. You gotta
Seriously
play
though,
the
like you look at musicians, no one's like, why haven't you played all your new music when you know Leonard Skinner's on? They want Freebird, right? It's like play Freebird, and so you have to get comfortable replaying those things that people are definitely interested in, but then strike the balance of new ideas.
Are you gonna yell at me? I get lazy and I'll just take an old thread, slap a new hook on it, and just
That's not lazy; it's smart,
paste the
right?
rest.
The way to think about this is, let's say that you 10x your following, right? So you're at 1,000 and you go to 10,000. That means when you're at 10,000, that 90% of the people who follow you now had never seen anything from back before your 1,000 followers. So you can go to all those tweets and re-bring them back up to the top.
Yeah.
And so that only compounds every time you double or triple.
And the 1,000 probably don't even remember it.
And no one
Like,
remembers.
Oh, that's a good
Exactly.
refresher. It's
Never
like,
once
yeah.
has someone said, "Hey, I've seen you say this really helpful, actionable piece of content
Dude, yeah.
before. Like, I'm going to unfollow
Like,
you."
stop.
Right. Think about how many pieces of social media content you read today.
Yeah.
And you have no clue that
Can't
that
even
person's
remember.
probably said it 10 times in the last month.
Especially on Twitter, because it's not like YouTube where
No.
old videos can pick
Yes.
up steam. Like the shelf life is super short.
Exactly. You're feeding.
what?
Hormozy,
Twitter, Oh, yeah.
Hormozy said it well. It's like short form content. You're actually not feeding people who go, yeah, short form's not worth investing in because the content doesn't last, but you're feeding a reputation. That's what's compounding.
Yeah.
So you have to continue to kind of feed that engine, and no one's saying, hey, I've heard
What
that
do you mean?
before.
What do you mean by that, or what does he mean by that?
So he says, so let's say I invest a bunch of time writing tweets, and then no one ever sees those tweets again.
Okay.
His original thought was that's not worth investing in because it's not compounding, right? That old piece of content now doesn't have more eyeballs on it. But he realized, and it makes sense, that your new, what is actually compounding is the person who read it and then associated that idea with you.
Yeah.
So you have to continue to put those out because every time they read a new one, that's what's compounding.
But also, if you speak to a brick wall for 6 months and then pop off, you could just go back to the old ones
Exactly.
and throw them back out.
And I hear people all the time saying, I'm actually going to wait until I have a bigger following before I put my good ideas out there. I'm like, that makes zero sense. You're just going to assume that you're going to grow with your shitty content. And then at some point, you're going to be like, all right, now I got enough people who are, here's time to bring the good stuff out. It's like, no, you're going to say that good stuff 1,000 different ways over your entire
That's what's gonna get
career.
you
Exactly.
to the 10K.
Followers are a lagging indicator of the quality of your content,
Yeah.
not something to lead
The biggest thing I see is people don't want to give away their best sauce because they think it's diminishing their value, but all it does is give you more value.
Every single
People
thing,
should be paying for
yes,
this. Right.
every single thing inside Ship 30 I've tweeted out at some point.
Really?
Every single piece of, if you want to go through my entire timeline and just put every tweet in a swipe file and try to reverse engineer the whole curriculum and spend 200 hours trying to do that, great. Or you could pay $800 and we'll teach it to you live. Like if you value your time at less than or more than $4 an hour.
Sure.
So we take all of our best educational, which
That's so funny you say that.
like, because that's exactly what,
$4 an hour.
yeah, right.
Made a video about that
Yeah,
one too.
exactly.
He got roasted.
I
for
saw that, dude. That was hilarious.
You got to keep doing that. What's his name?
It works. Attention, right?
You know the meme where it's like the soldier guarding the bullets from the little kid sleeping? It's like me, every money Twitter person, every major corporation, like paying VAs. It's like I'm the beacon here, just getting murdered.
That's smart, man.
The country of the Philippines.
Yeah.
So aside that growth strategy, LinkedIn, and then we're going to go on YouTube and Instagram from here because those are two channels that we have not tapped into at all, which have far more viewers, far more people interested in. And the interesting thing is that no one on there is writing. So we actually have to convince them to start writing first. And then
Good point.
we're going to have to go convince them to, or show them how.
gotta write that
It's like a
down.
problem awareness thing. When you enter a new platform, like if you guys went to
Instagram is
right.
where we're going
I don't
to
know a good example, but there's two things you have to sell them on. First, on this opportunity in general,
like the vehicle.
and then on how to do it.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
Interesting. Yeah, because is a common objection on LinkedIn like, hey, I can just keep this automation running and grow my followers just as quickly?
Wait, sorry. Say that again.
So if I'm writing on LinkedIn,
Yeah.
like specifically, do people say like, why do I need to put out content if I could just keep like automated LinkedIn campaigns running and grow my following that way?
Oh, I have no clue what automated LinkedIn is.
Oh, just like outreach. You've never done
Oh,
outreach on
no,
LinkedIn?
no.
Oh, okay.
What is that?
So like the way that most people, at least like when we started doing LinkedIn outreach, would get like 10,000 followers, 12,000 followers, 15,000 followers was just by sending out a bunch of connection requests. Because a follower is a connection.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Oh,
So it's
okay. I
very
didn't know
different
that.
than like Twitter. It'd be like if I got a follow from every person I sent a DM to.
No, I don't know. I think LinkedIn is the single best opportunity for anyone who has educational business content right now because
Okay.
the barrier to entry is low. And you think about the average person on LinkedIn, their boss follows them. So they're not going to post themselves, right? But they will like and comment on your content so it looks like they're learning and engaging with something.
And their bosses. happy.
Exactly, right? So it's someone, I can't remember who said it, but it was like corporate TikTok, where there's a huge supply or very little supply of people creating anything worth watching, but a huge amount of demand because everyone's sitting on LinkedIn on their 3 screens. I still remember doing this. Like you have 3 screens in your corporate setup and like one of them's on LinkedIn and that's okay. Yeah. And that's totally fine, but you can't have Twitter or Instagram up.
Yeah.
Only
So if
LinkedIn.
LinkedIn's up, it's like, oh, he's networking.
I hate LinkedIn so much.
Yeah, you just post
a-
on it, dude. Post in
think our
30 minutes and
account-
out.
We
Post
did the
and goes.
automation, so I think our engagement's cooked. I posted, it got like 2 views, and I have like
Yeah.
10,000 followers.
I don't know too much
That's
about that
probably what messed up our
algorithm other
engagement,
than
yeah.
that I think there's something with every post, the one before it has an impact on the one next to it. So you want to only put out bangers. Like
Okay.
Twitter, everything's kind of individual. It doesn't punish you for tweeting 6-10 times a day. LinkedIn, I post 1 time a day. And I know and I take the best tweets I've ever
Yeah, you just
written
copy
and I
paste.
put them on LinkedIn.
That's it.
And
Yeah.
I might just start over.
Yeah, honestly. Let's go back to Twitter real quick because there
Yeah.
have been, a lot of changes recently with Elon buying it, and there's just been all these tweets about, like the algorithms changed, and here's kind of like the new things that are favored. Like,
Yeah.
what have you seen work recently on Twitter, or is it the same playbook?
My pet theory of what happened on Twitter, and this would be very Elon-esque, was that like 2 months ago, he went in and said, all right, wipe everyone's reputation on Twitter back to 0. And so no matter how many followers you had, no matter how many anything, it was basically like everyone started over. And so because I felt it, a lot of people felt it, where their reach was just randomly lower. Like the average number of impressions where they were trying to recalculate. This is just my assumption.
Yeah.
Was that they went and changed something where it was kind of like an even playing field. And so you had 2 choices at that time. You could complain about it, or you could say, what do I do when I would start a new account? The answer is volume. So I went from tweeting 2 times a day to 7 times a day. And just like that, all my impressions, all my engagement, all of it came roaring back. And so I tweeted about that all. I'm like, look, everyone here complaining, just pretend you had 0 followers again. What would you do? You would tweet way more. So go do that. And it's clearly aligned with the incentives of Elon to get more people on the platform and spend more time.
Sure.
So
My engagement's been fire since I went viral for that $4 an hour video.
right? That's the thing. So that might have been that you kind of just jumped up the general
The new ladder.
rankings. But I think if for anyone who's starting out on Twitter, the answer is, and this is really for anyone starting with anything, the answer is always more.
Yeah.
You solve beginner problems with more, you solve advanced problems with less.
I love it, bro. I think this is the thing I always loved about you is on our mastermind call, like maybe a year ago, like we were all talking about Twitter and like what the growth strategy is. And we're like, oh, Dickie, you have more followers than anyone here. Like, what's the secret? And you're like, oh, I just write a thread every day for like the last year. And it's like, oh yeah, it's really simple. But like, that's really how it is. It's like,
No one wants to hear that the simple basic thing is exactly what works. Like no one wants to hear to lose weight, you need to move more and eat less.
Yeah.
They want 15 different diets and supplements and all this stuff. No one wants to hear that they're like, how have you grown on Twitter? I've posted every day for 3 years.
Yeah.
Very simple.
yeah, that's just the consistency and it compounds. And through that consistency, like, yeah, sure, some of those pieces of content were not your best. But because
Absolutely.
you put them out, you got to the best one sooner, quicker.
And still some of the pieces I put out are not my best.
Yeah.
Every day. But you put out enough, you recognize what's working, and then you can double down on that.
Yeah. And I love what you said. If you want to go more into like the YouTube strategy, right? Because you have the studio here, which you were talking about a little bit off camera, like investing a lot of money into it. Like, what's the play there? Why do you think YouTube is the right, next channel for you guys?
Because I have 3 years of tweets that have been validated as interesting. So I know exactly what our first 30, 40 videos are going to be. So rather than start with an average setup to try to test and get better at YouTube, I know that the content is validated. So let's invest the most in the setup up front so we can skip that beginner stage. Because if I was just starting on YouTube and I never written anything on Twitter, I would not have got this setup. I would have a crappy setup and I'd film 100 videos in 100 days. And then I would get better. And I'd have enough volume and I'd also have the data of what was working.
Yep.
So rather than, I don't actually have to do that data validation at this point. I can just go crank out videos.
The funny part with content is it compounds not just in the follower count, but you can post stuff and look back on it when you're way bigger and say, oh, this worked then, it's going to work way better now. And then when you're bigger and bigger.
And cross-platform.
Yeah.
Right? So I know that if I go make a video on the 4A framework that I gave the keynote on, it's going to go viral on YouTube because everyone's going to say, wow, I've never seen this kind of content before. So I have all this stuff that's worked on a written platform. Now we just have to figure out how to make us look good.
Which you're doing a really good job with.
Not easy. Not easy.
Yeah. And I also love what you said of like the way you distinguish yourself amongst other competitors is anyone can go on Twitter and write about things, right? They could copy other people's tweets or ideas, but to speak them with conviction is just a whole different level. And I feel like that's where you can really separate yourself.
That's what we're hoping, right? Because we've written a ton of stuff. We've been writing about it for 3 years. And like you said, anyone can write about how to write well. Not that many can articulate how to write well. And especially if you put a setup like this, it's going to capture people's attention. And that's our whole goal. If we're passionate about helping 1 million people start writing on the internet, we need to be able to reach more than just Twitter, because by definition, most of those people have already started.
Yeah.
So going to Instagram and YouTube is kind of our next bet, because everyone there is watching and not writing.
Okay. So my next question was going to be what you just answered, which was like, why all the followers on Twitter, and now like the goal is to get all the followers on YouTube. You said you want to help 1 million people write online.
The mission of Ship 30 is to help 1 million people start writing online, and the mission of the Premium Ghostwriting Academy is help 1 million people make a living writing online. So it's very different. Not everyone who starts writing wants necessarily to quit their job or do any of these other things. So that's just, we want to help 1 million people, and we're getting, I don't know, had 10,000 students go through Ship 30, so
That's
we're 1% of the way.
Crazy.
And now
10,000 students.
But Ghostwriting Academy, we're nowhere near that. So that's a completely different ballgame, and that would obviously be a bigger deal. But Cole and I are passionate about this because of the story we said at the beginning.
Yep.
He would be trapped as a copywriter for an ad agency making $30K a year, and I would be living another year on Wall Street, waking up at 5 a.m. to get on the subway, to sit under fluorescent lights for 14 hours, and then go home and do it all again. And I think there are a lot of people who probably feel that way about what they're up to. So if we can help as many people potentially get on a different path than the one they're on, that's our mission.
Yeah. I think that's the cool part with like B2C especially, where, oh, you're a scammer, you're this, you're that. Like, how do you speak with such conviction? It's like, if you believe in your product and know the good that it does, like it'd be wrong of you to not promote the shit out of it.
Mm-hmm. It's the Zig Ziglar, right? If you feel like your product can fulfill a true need or solve a real problem, it's your moral obligation to sell it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that was definitely a belief I had. Like I said, I was terrified to charge any money.
$50.
$50 and I'm wiring money back. I get him flagged. So those are all the beliefs and that's the beautiful part about starting your own business, is you become the bottleneck to its growth. So you have to go build the skills and overcome the limiting beliefs to get to each level. And I'm sure you guys have felt that as you've been scaling your thing, right?
Yeah.
It's not going to grow beyond what
times.
you're able to do
Yeah.
or how productive you're able to be, which when you're working for a corporate job, the limitation is often bureaucracy, right? You
Yep.
could be an all-star performer. You're not going to make any more money, and you're not going to have any bigger impact because Steve, the VP above you, doesn't let you. And that was extremely frustrating for me.
And he's supposed to be your leader, your mentor, and he's incentivized to keep you alone.
And you're incentivized to be as profitable as possible.
Wait, so you were at BlackRock doing analytics,
I was a hedge fund trader.
like numbers,
Yeah.
and you're also a really good writer? Dude, that's not fair. What'd you
I-
get on your SAT? Perfect score?
No, I don't remember.
Pretty smart though. I mean, where'd you play football at?
Princeton.
Princeton.
Yeah.
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 It's nothing.
Not too shabby.
Nothing too bad, yeah.
Just a Princeton graduate.
But I hated writing until I realized that it was the missing piece for whatever I wanted to do.
Yeah.
Right. If I felt like I could communicate with numbers, but couldn't articulate them to anyone else, I wasn't going to go anywhere.
Yeah, no, I love that. I guess one thing I'm curious about is you have Ship 30, you have it's premium.
Yeah, we call it
Ghostwriting Academy?
PGA, the Premium Ghostwriting Academy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any other
PGA,
offer,
baby.
any other business, any other thing that like you've been wanting to start or like will start in the near future? Or you just locked into.
Well, we
these
have a couple
two
things.
specific
We have
offers?
TypeShare, which is our software company.
Okay.
So we own TypeShare, which is a writing platform that helps people start writing. So if you've
Okay.
never written anything, any kind of social media content, it's got templates, it's got AI, it's got guides, everything you would need. So we have the software business. And we have a couple paid newsletters that we're growing upwards of 20 to 30K a month right now. And those are interesting because they're completely different monetization vehicles.
Yeah.
And so we're building out that suite of paid newsletters with the potential of treating it separately. So
Interesting.
the only thing we haven't done at this point is a physical products business, right? We've done a digital product course, a group coaching, an agency, software, and paid newsletter.
Drop a notebook.
Textiles.
Right. So, yeah. So we need some kind of in-person.
A pen. Ooh.
So if it's going to be anything, I've thought about this. It has to be a recurring consumable.
Okay.
So not a pen is close, but you
With
really
no
don't
ink.
buy that many pens. I'm so spoiled selling 99% gross margin
Yeah.
things, and I'm like, I need this thing to have a high gross
Espresso,
margin.
you do espresso?
That's exactly what we're thinking.
Nice.
So
I love that.
yeah, so if
Fire.
we go some kind of coffee brand that people, but it can't just be a coffee brand. It's got to be espresso or something that's different. That's the only thing we're thinking about. But
Yeah. I love the setup because it's very similar to our business model. So we have our coaching program,
Yes.
we have the low ticket course, and then we have the SaaS. And the SaaS is essentially a tool that
yeah, we're on
makes
ListKit
sense.
now.
Oh,
we're
appreciate
on
it, bro.
ListKit, and we're
Let's
trying
go.
we're trying to build out, like, that's a beautiful part about, I'm willing to try anything at this point. just to figure out, hey, what's working? Because I'm trying to pay down my ignorance tax of we've never acquired anyone for PGA via cold email. Why don't we try? Why don't we look for everyone that's a freelancer and start that outreach?
Here's an idea. PGA, like you want them to be ghostwriters, reach out to businesses and sell them ghostwriting.
So here's the
Pair
thing.
them up.
Cole had a ghostwriting agency, and this is where I'm excited to talk about this stuff.
Yeah.
So Cole had a ghostwriting agency that was doing 200 to 300K.
A month?
A month.
Oh, wow, okay.
So he had the biggest ghostwriting agency, I think, in the world at that point. And he realized the amount of effort it takes to have an agency of that size with the bureaucracy and everything is a logistical nightmare. Now, some people can do it and they're very talented, and I think it's very rare to be able to scale an agency.
Sure.
But follow me for a second on this, right? If the final end product is someone has their content ghost written for them, right? That's what the agency service would provide. We can actually deliver that outcome, but rather than be the agency itself and try to fulfill on the service for everyone, we can actually educate individuals to start solo agencies. Exactly, right? So the final end product is still delivered, but there's no bureaucracy, and in the process you allow more people to build.
You're giving them
Exactly,
opportunity.
right.
So this is what we're doing with Cold Email Mastery.
Exactly.
Yeah, like you should like reaching out to tech companies to get them interested in a
Yes.
ghostwriter.
So we have to start generating demand.
Yeah.
On
and
both
then,
sides.
Exactly. So that's our next thing, is figuring out how to create this ultimate guide for people who need a ghostwriter. So same thing with you guys, right? So cold email mastery, right? You could do the cold email for every business, and that would be a logistical nightmare.
It was. We did.
Right,
it for 3
exactly.
years.
Or you can educate individuals to start solo cold email mastery agencies. And I think a lot of people, I'm seeing a lot of agencies pop up right now, and they're going on the back of a creator who is going to generate demand for the agency. And then they're going to scale it up. It's going to burn. And then it's going to be a miserable 12 months winding that thing down. And then they're going to say, damn, I really wish I would have just started a high ticket group coaching education. And that's exactly, luckily Cole lived that entire experience.
Yeah.
And so now instead we're going the other route.
Yeah, dude, it's such a great model.
Yeah, carbon copy. Like exactly what we went through is the same thing that Cole went
Yeah,
through.
but you have to go through
You,
that,
you
right?
have to,
have
right?
the agency
Exactly.
experience
You have to
be
know
able
that
teach-
this is the worst business model on earth. When
and to be able to be qualified in the first place
Right.
to teach these people the skill set, right?
It's weird because you could say it's the worst business model on earth to go from that 2 to 300K a month range to
But from 0 to 10
but
or
from
0
0
to
to
10.
10,
Oh
10
yes,
to 50,
so it is the
model on
best
earth.
model on earth,
Yeah.
100%. It is the worst to try to get to 200, like you said, but to 20,
The best.
world class, right?
Yeah.
Because you only need 4 clients.
Yeah.
You need
Yeah.
4 people on earth to tell you yes to make something for them on a monthly basis.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Even like to a 7-figure run rate. Like it's relatively
Seriously.
not easy, but simple.
Yeah.
right?
Bro,
Like,
when
a
you
lot of hard
realize
work
how many
required.
people would trade anything in the world
agency
to make
is the best escape mechanism for like a job that you don't like.
100,000%. That was how I made my first dollar, was not even from Ship 30, but it was the person I was ghostwriting for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gave me $5,000, but how I generated that
Right.
interest was writing threads. And
Yep.
he commented on one of them and said, hey, could you write one for me? When that $5,000, I just wrote up this story the other day, so it's kind of top of mind. He asked me how much I would charge. And here I am, again, never made any money on the internet. Like,
Yeah.
shit, like $250, $500, like maybe. And I didn't want him to say no
Yeah.
because I was terrified I would lose out on that money. So I go, hey man, honestly, I don't know what to charge you. How about you just tell me at the end of this how much time it saves you and you pay me that much value? Which, looking at it now, is like the best way to price something
Yes.
is go to someone rich and save them 2 hours, right? Because their 2 hours is worth way more. And then after I sent it to him, he goes, dude, this is amazing. How much can I send you? Or how can I send over payment? So his VA or his assistant messages me. I'm like, well, I've never taken payment. So I send my Venmo. I'm like, shit, here's my Venmo. Like, can you send over my Venmo?
Super professional.
And then I get a response, and it's his assistant. And he goes, hey, we're not able to send that the amount we want to send you via Venmo. Can you set something else up? I'm like, my Venmo max is 1,000. Fuck yeah, I'm getting $1,000. And then I go set up PayPal, and $5,000 hits my PayPal account, and I thought it was a typo. I sent a message back. I had the DM. I'm like, hey, did you make a typo sending that? Like, did you mean to send me 500? And instead he goes, yeah, was that enough? The $5,000, because he said he was willing to pay me more. It was like,
How
I
many
think that
threads was it?
What?
How many threads?
It was basically a curation of all of his pieces on the internet, where I was going to go study that stuff anyway. It was kind of what I was doing with the curation threads.
Yeah.
and it was, hey, could you go watch all the videos I've done, the talks I've given, and the articles I've written, and like distill this into kind of a mini outline for a book. Just go write it all. I was like, heck yeah. So I spent 3 days inhaling all that stuff that I would have done for free anyway. And then I got $5,000, bro. I still remember. I was like, all right, I'm out.
That was it.
I'm out of like my Shawshank moment. I'm reaching the end. I can see the light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah, crawled out of the sewer. He crawled through all the shit.
Seriously, I'm almost there.
Yeah, dude.
Wow.
Yeah, the agency model is the breakthrough model, I think, for anyone.
That's
Because it's so accessible.
That's what Ty Lopez said. He said, dude, I've taught basically everything. I still haven't found something as good as the agency model to get you to that escape velocity.
It almost needs a rebrand or something. It needs something
Yeah.
where people, they go, you don't even need an agency. You just need 2 people to tell you yes to your service. Like
Yeah.
that sounds way easier than you have to start an
And
agency.
that is the
That's
reality.
literally all it is. It's getting 2 people to say yes to whatever it is you're having to offer. And you realize that the internet is a real place that you can make money and you can provide value.
That's the battle I'm fighting right now. Like
With?
TikTok.
Ah.
Just like B2C.
I see.
But we're kind of creating that with this new model of like, okay, instead of us being the agency,
You guys
let's
are onto
give the
something big with
opportunities.
training someone how to do cold email because one, you're the category king of that topic. And then that's just a whole new biz op opportunity of
Yeah, because everyone does closers and setters.
yeah, exactly. And you know what's way fucking easier than getting on a sales call and closing? Sending emails.
You don't even got to send them. You just got to send
Yeah, clicking buttons.
Yeah, click a few buttons and
And
it's send them
that
for you.
whole industry is like so ripe.
That's awesome. I
for
didn't know you guys were doing
disruption.
that.
TikTok idea. Do whenever I get an idea, I have to write it down.
This guy's just been on his phone after
And the
the
best
podcast.
part is everyone we're teaching, they're using ListKit.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
you guys have a really good service. So how is biz for you guys? Been good?
It's
Yeah.
been, yeah. I mean, honestly, on the coaching side, so basically what happened is we got Client Ascension up to a decent size in April. And then we're like, okay, Client Ascension, we can't continue to run up just this one offer. Let's do the placement offer. Let's do cold email mastery. ListKit was finally starting to come together. And so it went from like 1 offer to like 4 offers overnight. And so it's just been like 3 or 4 months of figuring out like the funnels, the traffic, and just the best way to where to send people. And now we're starting to see it pick back up again.
What is the price point on someone who wants to get educated as a cold email sender?
$497.
They can join your program for $500.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
And we do, well, now we're doing weekly webinars, live webinars, sending people from his TikTok, from my Instagram, just saying, hey, if you want to, the way you frame it, like you said, it
Right.
needs a rebrand. It's like, hey, if you want to make
That's
money,
cheap.
like on
I
the
guess
side.
because you're going to cold, that $497 price point's where you found it.
Yeah, and it's we don't even have to
Fuck, I got like 100
monetize that
questions.
anyways, because
Yeah.
the whole point of cold email mastery is to train people for the B2B placement. Like if we don't have enough people going through that program, we're not going to be able to fulfill for the clients.
Oh, so you're just selling cold email mastery
Yeah.
via webinar now.
Yeah.
From TikTok organic, from paid.
And
So you're driving to a Friday webinar, emails all week, texts all week. Okay, that's exactly what we're going to try to do, but have a free group as well.
Yeah.
So it's like a free group where we start saying, hey, come download all our content, but then also host a webinar in school because you have that aggregated attention and then try to upgrade people from there too.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, and that's the thing is like it doesn't really matter how much you charge for people to get into that low ticket product because you need the supply for the B2B side. Like when you have clients coming into the funnel saying, "Hey, I need a cold emailer."
Okay. Question. How much is the placement offer?
$6K.
$6K. Okay. So I see.
So we're monetizing both sides.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. Okay.
Dude,
Yeah. I
it's
like that.
insane because like I mean, on sales calls, we'll open up like this cost comparison sheet. If you were to do it this way with hiring somebody in-house who's going to run the cold email for you on a commission-only basis, including the $6K and like paying for your own tools in-house versus working with an agency, or even doing like the prevailing model of like setup fee plus pay per call, and just over the course of like 6 to 12 months, astronomically less expensive to do it with us.
Okay, so are you guys? This is sick. Are you guys acquiring potential businesses who need cold email via cold email? So you're cold emailing
exactly.
all those people saying, "Hey, using ListKit."
Yeah, I mean, you get them through cold email. They're like,
yes.
cold email doesn't work.
Yes.
They're like, bro, how'd you get on the call?
Right.
We cold email.
Okay, that's awesome.
It's the same exact
That
strategy.
is
Yeah, it's
awesome.
pretty
Okay.
crazy.
And then everybody has like a bad experience with lead generation. Even if it's not like cold email specifically, it could be a LinkedIn agency, it could be somebody who's running paid media, it could be all these different things. But 99% of the time, the reason they had a bad experience is because they were oversold on a sales call and they dropped it after 3 months. Where if you say, hey, there's no reason to turn it off. You can reach out to more people for less money because you're running everything in-house, meaning you're not maintaining an agency's 70 to 80% margin. you're just paying for like the tech stack, which is domains, data, sending software, which is relatively inexpensive for what it actually costs. You keep this shit running forever. And I was like, that's how our clients get like lucky. But it's not luck. Like people inside of Client Ascension, they just cold email way more people than everybody else.
Yes,
They do it for
volume
longer.
game.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so when someone hires a place, sorry, I'm like taking this over, but I'm
This
so
is- this
curious.
is what
Okay,
we were
this
excited to
exactly.
talk
Yeah,
about.
I
Welcome to
love
the
talking
Dickie
about-
Bush show.
I love talking about this, and this is really
Yeah.
what we talk about on our podcast, right?
I love
Espresso Hours turned almost strictly into
I watch it pretty
right.
consistently.
It's strictly what are Cole and I thinking about to grow the businesses, and we
Mm-hmm.
want to start to just rather than have this like educational here, do this. It's hey, here's what we're doing to grow our software, our coaching, our digital. So I'm like, I want to just hear this. When you guys, how do you find the people when they're only paying 500 that are like world class that you feel comfortable going and pairing?
You're saying, how do we find the talent to work with?
Yeah,
the-
so they're going through cold email mastery, and,
Yeah.
and you have something where you complete all the modules, and then you unlock the ability to join the recruitment plan.
Yeah. So so when you join Cold Email Mastery, like part of the selling point is you will get access to opportunities where you can get placed on a company that will pay you to do the cold email, right? The way you get there is one, you have to go through all the content, so we know you actually know what you're doing. But the part of the 6K offer, like the reason we charge 6K is because once we place someone, but we put them through a rigorous interview process.
Right.
They do 2 screening interviews, they fill out an application, and ultimately it's the company's decision at the end of the day to say, like, this is the person we want. But more importantly is once they're hired, they get 90 days of training with Christian, myself, and the rest of our team, one-on-one training to say, hey, we're going to turn this person into an A player. And if they don't hit this KPI within
so you have-
90 days,
yeah.
we'll continue until they do. And it's the same thing we could get into team building, right? Like,
Right.
A players are not hired, they're created, I think at least. Like you create A players within an organization by being an A player. And 90 days is plenty of time to do that with cold email because there's not much to it.
Right.
Yeah, I would say the other thing there is like, what's the last position you hired for?
Setter.
Setter. Okay, have you hired for that a bunch?
No. First
Okay,
setter.
so it's relatively new, so it's kind of hard to know how to handle the hiring process.
I've been
correct?
exactly. I've been doing the last week. Like, what should we do? Yeah.
So a big part of it is like because of all of our experience with the agency, like we all had this cold email incubator program. Like we've hired for this exact position so many times.
You know exactly what to
You
look
understand how to make the correct hire. So we'll get like 3 to 7 candidates in there per person. But we're not just saying, okay, like you guys interview them, you pick the best person. Because they don't know how to make an effective hire for a cold emailer. Like nobody does. So we'll give them like the questions we ask in the interview, the assessment that we give to these people. So like they can figure out, okay, how do I use these
okay.
guys as hiring templates to make the right hire? And then like Andre said, instead of just turning them over and being like sayonara, like I almost don't even like calling it a recruitment offer.
Yeah.
Because the main draw is the fact that we onboard, train, and ramp this person and guarantee results.
Okay, so it's 6K, and then what is the structure? Every business is commission based for that cold email, so they don't pay them a salary or anything.
Exactly. It's like
They're
it's the
contracted,
same way you'd pay a setter.
Nice.
Same commission structure, which is typically around 5% of the deal value.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Or a
And
base
then-
plus smaller. But
Yeah, and then they cover the cost of the software, which Dan
Yes.
mentioned, which is Smart Lead, super cheap, and then ListKit, they get access to the best pricing because we own it and can give them that
right, right,
pricing.
right.
Also, have you used ListKit recently?
Yeah,
He-
we just
he
started.
said-
Oh, no, I know you just started.
I
but,
haven't
like,
used it at all. to be
Yeah,
honest.
okay.
Why?
Because it's interesting hearing people who like use it like right when they signed up versus now.
No,
like the
I
product
don't know.
in the last
we
couple
started
of
like
weeks.
a week ago because
Got it,
we
got it.
have a huge opportunity on multiple sides. We have people to cold email who need ghostwriters. We have freelancers to cold email who should be ghostwriters rather than being freelancers. And we also have potential partners that run freelancing communities that we want to be able to reach out to
Yes.
and say, hey, we'll come do a webinar. So it's like we need to find the contact information for all of them. So we hired someone who's kind of doing sales coaching for within PGA, but also working on our team to go find these new potential lead source avenues. So
I love it, bro.
a lot of good things going on. But
Yeah. It's so much fun, dude, when you have all these different things going on and it's all, working towards the same thing.
and that's why I'm excited the most about this place is because Cole lives 5 minutes up the road, but we still don't do that much together in person. Like we have Monday morning meetings, but there's such a benefit. Like you guys are all same apartment in Tampa.
No. So we're the same way, right? So like me and Christian live in the same apartment.
Okay.
Andre and Scott live in the same building but different unit. Like still throughout the week, like we really don't see each other.
I know. And there's something to be said about if you get in the routine of seeing that person every day in person, like there's still especially I imagine I've been training this setter for the last week.
Sure.
And like scheduling the Zoom to get on versus like, yo, come over here and look at my screen
Yeah,
while I do
so
this
convenient.
is so different. We're not really going to have our full team here, but still the idea share that happened with me and Cole when we're
Like
going to
as
be
the founders,
as
right?
5 hours together a day for a long period of time, plus YouTube, plus all of this, we're pretty excited about what's
Yeah,
going.
it's gonna skyrocket things. Absolutely. Yeah, because I was thinking about this the other night too. Is like scheduling things. Like my calendar, as all of your guys's are, like it's just packed. But like there are times throughout the day where I can like conveniently take a call, but it's
Yes.
like I didn't schedule one.
Exactly.
For
and
that.
you're
And
like, get on Zoom, and
Yeah.
they're like, I'm not Zoom ready. It's like,
yeah, but if
annoying.
you're literally one thing over.
Yeah, there's a reason that like every corporate firm in the world wants people back in the
Yeah.
office
Yeah.
because it's way better.
most
I mean,
productive way to
the
work.
only reason I was able to escape Wall Street was because I was at home in Tampa and realized that the finance world did not have nearly as much work as you might think when there's no one looking over your shoulder
They just
making
give you bullshit to do.
yes, and there was
Meetings.
and all this stuff
A
versus
meeting
when-
for a meeting about
yeah,
a meeting.
yeah, exactly.
Bro, you've seen the day in the lives.
Bro, those day in the
TikToks?
lives were literally my fucking day in the life, and I
Do
see
a day
that,
in the
and I
life, like, oh, day in the life of a
here I
22-year-old
am riding my
entrepreneur.
thing, here riding the subway, and like we had a meeting about this. I'm like, fucking shoot me, dude. Like I've been there, and I know how unhappy those people are.
Yeah.
Yeah, when we were pulling up just to park before this podcast, Andre was like, "Dan, this is your dream." Because I've been talking about getting to office a lot. It's definitely something I want to do at some point, just to have that feel. Like we did a podcast yesterday at the Valuetainment Studios.
Oh, dude, that's a thing.
And
bro.
just seeing
There's
people in
something
their
about
house.
building a real life thing
Yeah.
from an internet business that we're super excited. I put 3 or 4 years ago that a dream was to open up a place like this, but have a gym. And Cole was a bodybuilder too. The place next door just went on the market for potential
Oh,
lease,
bro.
and we're like looking at each other like, should we just fucking put a sick gym right there too, and just have both of them, bro, and like. And then you eventually
do it like PBD did. He's got, like, a
exactly,
cigar
bro.
lounge in the back.
Exactly. So we eventually, my dream is to have a full co-working studio, espresso bar, based grill with like grass-fed steak bowls and sauna cold plunge. Have all that with a dope office, and have everyone that works on the team want to live that lifestyle
Be
too.
interested in
It's
all those
over.
things.
just utopia.
You would just build an absolutely
The next Apple.
unbelievable company where it wouldn't be the biggest in the world, but it would be so damn fun to show up to every day. And I think that's exactly what you eventually want to build.
Yeah. No, that's the dream.
So this is V1.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, not a bad start.
Pretty
cool to be-
damn
it's
good
cool.
V1.
Pretty good V1.
cool
Well,
to
actually,
see it.
the real V1, the reason I moved to this building was you guys probably saw, there's like a co-working. We're going to make a video of how we built this place. And the office is over there. And it was no windows in the corner, like corporate prisons vibes. And we signed a 6-month lease for $1,500 a month and went for 3 days and didn't go back. And we're like, okay, we're back to WeWork, and we try to work it out, but now we have this place, and
Yeah.
we're pretty stoked.
Pretty sick.
It's not even done. We're gonna have all these chairs, a long 7-foot co-working table
conference
on the other
desk.
one, so people can come hang, and then we'll get other stuff. Where realistically, we could have 8 to 10 people in here chilling, working. I'm pumped for it, and Miami needs that. There's a lot of people who are doing interesting things, but really no one bringing them together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Be
Sweet,
that
man.
person.
We love Tampa. You live in Miami. You're from Tampa.
Yeah, man, you guys are in the hometown.
Yeah. I always put up the fight on Twitter that Tampa's better than Miami. What do you think?
It depends what you're optimizing for, man. I've been there for so long. Like comparing cities like
Yeah,
that,
you're sick. You've seen it all.
I've seen it all, and it's definitely come up. But like, you're still 45 minutes from the beach,
Yeah,
and
that's
I'm
true.
4 minutes.
yeah,
That's what I like the most. Tampa,
that's fair.
they're just different parts. I never went to Miami until 2 years ago in my entire life.
Really?
Tampa and Miami is just not like a let's go down hang out in Miami,
No, it's a
because if you
far
go to the
drive.
beach, like you just go whatever
Pete.
45 or St. Pete, exactly. So I have a house in Tampa. My mom lives in Tampa. I'm still there a good
Yeah.
bit, so I'll always be like
It's funny, you know,
an
our,
OG Tampa guy.
Chandler. It's like
Yeah,
such a
exactly. No,
small
all
world.
my friends are still there, and like I'm a Tampa sports fan.
You
Through
got
and
to witness the
through.
greatest Super Bowl
Seriously,
as a fan ever.
the single best investment
Hometown,
I've ever
home
made in my
team.
entire life was going to the
Oh,
Super
dude,
Bowl.
the story of like how you guys got the
Oh, have you
tickets
heard
to
that?
Yeah, I
Where
think Chandler
straight
told us.
up cash in my hand. So I'll tell the quick story, because this was
It is legendary.
January or February 21. So COVID year, Super Bowl in Tampa, Tom Brady. I'm like, Ship 30's just starting to work. I'm like making a little bit of internet money. I'm like, all right, like Shawshank, I know I'm going to leave this Wall Street job. Like should I just drop this money on these tickets? And I was looking at the market. I'm like, yeah, they're like $9,000. Shit, fuck, that's like a chunk of what I had at the time. And I remember sitting there watching Stripe notifications come through the day before the Super Bowl. I was like, this is a massive bet on yourself that you're going to be able to continue to build whatever it is you're building on the internet.
I love it.
So I went the next morning, took out $10,000 in cash, went to the Super Bowl with no ticket at 4 p.m., 6:30 kickoff, and just had $10,000 and said, I'm going to find 2 tickets. And Chandler was with me. We end up, I'm like in the thick of it. Like scalpers, everyone going around me. I'm like, I got this guy on the phone. I got like 2 cell phones in my hand talking to those people. I'm like, I'm finding my way in this game for $10,000 cash. And we end up like 3 blocks down the road in this like trap house.
Right by the stadium?
No, so we started in the stadium and we're walking away from the stadium. I'm like, this is either the worst thing that's ever happened or the best thing that's ever happened.
$10,000 in your pocket in the
I got
trap house.
$10,000 cash. I'm like the most money I've ever had in my whole life in hand. And we're sitting there and he's like, all right, yeah, that'll be $10,000 too. Like it actually ended up being more. So I had to Venmo him more. They were $6,800 each. And so gave him the cash, dropped Venmo in his thing. He puts it on our phone. I'm like, this has to be real. Please be real. And so we walk to the game from there like, well, man, the cash is gone now. So either these tickets are real and we're going to get in and
we resell them to the next person.
I didn't think about that. Or some other suckers losing this one. And I still remember when that ticket turned green and I went in the game. It was the biggest sigh of relief I ever had. Now I can say, like, tell this story. The fact that Tom lost I say Tom, like Tom Brady. He lost
Good friend Tom.
my good friend Tom. I saw him play Tampa guy.
Yeah, Tommy boy.
He lost the fact that they won that one at home. I got to see it, and then they lost the next week or the next year, and then he retired. So I went to his last one in Tampa.
That's amazing.
Single best dollar I've ever spent on anything.
And like that's so crazy because it's hometown favorite team and still in NFL history the only team to ever win Super
So
Bowl.
what happened
at
after the
home.
game? Did you and Chandler just like go ham?
We went. So I actually caught COVID at a party after going the whole year in New York, in Florida, nothing. The next 2 days, woke up like sick as hell. It's like, damn it, worth it.
Worth it for sure.
Chandler was
Seriously
telling me
worth it.
he's like, I was on like such a high.
Yeah, I don't even remember what I did. It was unreal. What a
Like
game.
there's like the touchdown during the game, like the pandemonium. You must have like been floating.
We bought legit tickets. We were 4 rows up in the end zone. So like the game winning interception, they picked it off, and then the whole defense came over and they did like the whatever, and then Fournette's last touchdown was right in our end zone.
Oh,
World
dude, that's
class.
so sick.
And we've been talking about that as a metaphor for building this studio because like this was still an uncomfortable. This was $100,000 to build.
Wow.
All in once we pay agency fees and
Yeah.
the material. Like obviously we could keep the stuff and rent and whatever, but you have to sometimes make that investment to then grow into it.
Yeah.
And so if I have like 3 or 4 friends who I still see to this day and they go, dude, me not going to that Super Bowl at the time when it was a stretch financially is still the biggest mistake I've ever had because 3 years in the future, you looks at that amount of money and goes, dude, you didn't go to the fucking Super Bowl for that? Like, come on. So it's always a bet on yourself. And that's how I think about this studio too is
$5,000.
Exactly.
Like a morning in Stripe.
Yeah, exactly. Right. If you're playing the game right.
Yeah.
But at the time, no, that wasn't, so anytime it's like when you rent a nicer apartment, you're not going to move into that apartment and then stop working hard. You're going to work way harder because you're like, look at this place. I have to fucking get after it.
And
so
that's every first of the month.
And that's why I said to you guys, like, get over here and film here because we got to put this place to use at this point,
Yep. Absolutely. Yeah, you just put pressure on yourself. Bet on yourself.
Apply. Exactly.
I love that. I guess how do you make the decision between like, okay, like this is a bet that makes sense and this is kind of a stretch?
Yeah, there's obviously no framework, right? You got to bet on something where you can see that there's a long-term return on it. So I like this. Have you guys read the book Die With Zero by Bill Perkins?
I listened to the podcast with, I forget.
Chris Williamson? Yeah, dude.
Great podcast.
So that framework clicked for me. For anyone who doesn't know it, basically the concept of a memory dividend, which is when you invest in an experience.
I think I sent it to you.
It's my favorite thing in the world.
It's the coolest thing because it clicked for me. He's a hedge fund guy. So he wrote it out in like mathematical terms. And this was a great example of a memory dividend, meaning my $6,800 that I paid for those Super Bowl tickets, I get to tell that story forever. Yeah. So I just got to tell it again, which means that $6,800 paid for this moment on the podcast that thousands of people are going to hear. And so I look at any time I'm spending money now, what is the memory dividend of it? So what is the memory dividend of building this studio? Well, we got to experience the whole thing, build a video of
When you're a
it.
public
Think of
company,
all
like,
the
"That's where we started."
all the relationships that we're going to build. That's another thing, right?
Yeah.
In the future, we get to look back on this one. So I think that's the way to think about what bets to make. Don't go to the fucking club and blow $5,000 for something that's not that
Not
fun,
gonna
and
remember
you're
it
not
the
going to
next
remember
morning.
exactly.
But at the same time, like you sell a company, you're with like your co-founders, go blow fucking $20,000 at the club.
There-
'Cause, like,
yeah.
that's
Dude,
celebration.
That's true.
My
Fair
favorite
enough.
Twitter thread of all time. This guy was in a club in Vegas.
Yep.
These group of Asian people were going dropping 6 figures at the table.
Yeah.
He goes, guys, what the fuck are you guys doing? They go, we just sold our company and we're all family, and we baked into the clause that whoever bought us had to fund a weekend in Vegas. I'm like, that's
a great
coolest thing
perk.
I've ever seen.
That's a great perk. Damn.
Yeah, man. That's great, dude.
So far,
What else?
What's next for you guys with the pod?
just keep going.
Yeah.
It's
How many episodes
so,
you done?
I think this is in the 50s at this
We're
point.
at like, we've been doing it for like 10, 11 years.
All time podcast name, by the way. Stick Talk. All time podcast name. Like all time podcast. Every time I hear it, I'm like, fuck, that's sick.
It's a good podcast name. So we
It just flows. It's crisp.
we knew we were doing it at the cigar bar. So like we want something like cigar
okay.
related. I'm also a Future fan. So the song, Stick
Yes,
Talk.
banger.
The
Absolute
SEO,
banger.
he still gets us, but we're
Yeah,
coming.
yeah, dude, we're climbing up. Like when Ty's episode was popping off, we were like one below.
Oh yeah, you guys were you in London with Ty? I listened to that one. That was a good one.
Oh, thank you.
You were in
Appreciate
London
that.
with him?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right before our event.
We had
London.
an
Dude, I saw
London.
some tweet that was like, but it actually doesn't make sense now. It's like, man, Ty really had it figured out. He got his bag, blew up on YouTube, and then went and bought farmland in like Norway and retired. And now he's back doing all this stuff. I'm like, dude, you kind of had it. Like, just
Yeah.
throw your phone in a lake and get off the internet.
No,
Or,
I
like,
think that's what happens though. Is like there's pros and cons to everything.
okay.
Right. So there's obviously pros to being just fucking rich on land that you own on a ranch with a wife and 5 kids. But like, there's probably also a lot of pros that come with being like one of the most known people.
Yeah,
at a
true,
given time, like
true.
having that influence.
He's
I
a
feel
big-
like once you move away from something, you miss it enough to a certain point to where you.
He
go
said he was a
back to
big
it.
seasons of life kind of guy too.
Yeah.
Yeah. He probably took a few years off, chilled hard, and was like, dude, when those ads were ripping, that was like us as young, like right when I started on YouTube, bro. Like here in
Yeah.
my garage, wild.
What do you say they were spending at one point? Like 70
70 a day.
And I
70
didn't
a
even know what he
day.
sold. I'm like, this has to be a scam. Goes back
70
to
grand a day.
That's why everyone saw it.
yeah, seriously, everyone saw it because and it was like the cheapest impressions ever were on YouTube.
Yeah.
So it was like, I have a money machine here.
it was such a
just
good offer.
fucking crank the lever.
Yeah.
He would put in $1 and get $2.50.
So he just put in
Go
every
borrow
dollar
$1
he had.
trillion and put it into that machine.
But yeah, to go back to the question real quick of like, what's the goal with TikTok? It's kind of what we've learned through every podcast we've done. Like anytime I talk to a successful person, they always say the same thing. Like you're looking for like a specific strategy or like a secret to growth or success. And they're always just like, no, there's not really anything. It's just consistency.
You're still talking to me because I'm still here.
Yeah.
Like, that's
So
it.
that's our goal is just to continue. Our most impressive accomplishment with the podcast is not any specific guest. It's the fact that since we started, we've released one episode every single week.
Damn.
Which is not as easy as it sounds being in person for every single episode. Like no Zoom interviews
Wow.
ever, only in person because those are the highest quality conversations. So that's just the goal is one a week. Maybe we up it to 2 a week at some point, but
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely people we want to get on the podcast. Honestly, the podcast is doing okay.
Yeah.
Subscribe right now.
There you go. Seriously.
But like that's the whole thing is just like the only plan for the foreseeable future is just one a week in person.
I think the coolest part about it is that you get to look back on it when you do a second episode with someone.
Yeah.
Like I've been on a couple now where I'm like done 2 or 3 episodes.
Yeah.
And just that's the compounding
Yeah.
library of it. Of like here we are at this moment in time
Yeah.
when we captured this.
Yeah.
And now we're talking about this.
I can't wait for the next one with you when we take a cold plunge after.
Oh, seriously, right in the fucking compound. Yeah, this
Yeah.
is just the V1. We got a lot to come here.
Yeah.
I think the goal for me is to have it be a network eventually. Where,
Podcast?
Like, TikTok is like the umbrella, and there's like my show, his show, somebody else's
That's
show.
dope.
Ooh,
Very
I've
cool.
never heard that idea yet.
Huh. Super
We'll have to
dope.
give Scott a show and Kai a show. And
Yeah.
I will also see it as a vehicle at some point to get a physical product. Like you mentioned with espresso, get our own cigars.
That'd be dope.
That'd be
There's a
fire.
consumable.
Yeah.
That's a thing.
Very
I can't
repeatable.
imagine running a friggin' luggage e-commerce brand where like you sell someone one thing one time and they never buy from you again.
That's it.
Versus someone that, like this right here. That's what I want to sell. And obviously everyone knows you want to be in that business, but
Yeah.
we're spoiled by selling internet products, right? I got to bring that to.
Those are two of my favorite things in the world too: caffeine and nicotine. Like just
Dude, I saw something the other day that was a sparkling water with only caffeine and electrolytes. And I'm like, that is genius, because all these other BS things have all the artificial sweeteners and all this stuff, but I just want that. So I'm thinking, well, what do I take every morning with that? Well, I also have like L-theanine and creatine. So what if there were, and I know that there's a lot of people who take that exact stack every morning. So if you
ever
built
tried Neuromints?
No. Oh, I took a couple at the event before my keynote, because I was like,
That's why it was the best keynote.
Dude, I was pretty nervous. I was like, fuck, just pop these, whatever. I'd never really slammed any nicotine, but I've heard that is like something to dabble in.
I love it. I love them.
It's literally just L-theanine and caffeine. That's all.
Oh, those aren't even nicotine?
No. Just
Oh,
L-theanine and caffeine.
damn. There's something about the artificial caffeine where it's like,
Yeah.
whoa.
Yeah,
like
it
your
hits
brain,
you. Hits you a
something
little
hits
bit quicker.
different. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Rip the lightning round?
Yeah, let's do it.
Oh,
All
yeah.
right, lightning round series of quick questions.
Dope.
Snappy. First question: if you could have dinner with any 3 people, who would they be and why? Dead or alive?
Any 3 people. Okay. I would say right now, Marcus Aurelius, dead. That would just be cool to hear his entire story. I'd say Elon, just because I got to hear what that guy's thinking about in general.
Tell me the algorithm.
And then Donald Trump, for sure.
Let's go.
Like, imagine those 3 around you.
That
Bro,
would
you
be
just,
sick.
I don't know. Those are,
It'd be a good conversation.
Elon was
That'd be a
like,
good
tell us plans for Twitter.
yeah, I just want to hear, like,
massive,
dude.
absolutely massive.
Exactly. Yeah. That'd be a fun dinner.
That would be awesome, bro.
It's a good question, too.
I gotta
You
get
gotta
an
just
invite
fire
to that
something off.
one.
Yeah.
Those are great answers. My question is always something along the lines of, if you could put out one last tweet to inspire your audience or leave them with a message that helps them to achieve, a level of success that you've achieved, what would it be?
It would,
Can't be a threat. It's got to be something
Can't be a threat.
quick and punchy.
I'd say kill your onces. So once I leave this job, once work slows down, once I have a kid, once I move cities, once I feel ready, then I'll get started on something. Those are never going to go away. There's always going to be a once that will hold you back. So you have to, anytime you hear yourself say, once this, then I'll do it, you have to immediately start doing that thing. And you can overcome almost every beginner problem if you keep that mindset.
Just take instant action, imperfect action.
Love that. Dream sporting event that you haven't been to yet.
Ooh, okay. So in the last year, that I haven't been to. So I've done the Super Bowl, March Madness, NBA Finals. I've done those. I think
You ever
So-
been to like F1 or
so.
Masters?
F1 in Monaco.
Masters
Oh,
gotta be
man.
mine.
F1 in Monaco.
Yeah,
May
that would be
20,
sick.
May 26th. I have it on my calendar. For the only brutal part about Florida is the summer.
Yep.
And I've done 26 summers there. So this summer I was in Europe the entire summer. I did London, Amsterdam, and Greece
Amsterdam,
for 3
let's
months. It was a
go.
lot of fun. And so next summer I know that around May I'm going to leave. And May 26th is F1 in Monaco. I think I'm going to have to start my summer there, because that
That's gonna
sounds
be
like
sick.
an
You're
absolutely
gonna have
sick
to start
event.
saving money too.
That is
Yeah,
like,
I know. That's right.
literally
That's right. So
The
that's
definition of high class.
seriously.
F1
But
Yeah.
I think, or that, or like I don't even like soccer that much, but Real Madrid, FC Barcelona.
Well, the World Cup's gonna be in the U.S. In 2028.
That could be dope.
26.
26.
Okay.
That's gonna be sick.
Yeah, that'd be
in
dope.
like all the major cities.
I'll be there.
Oh, cool.
We'll have
Okay.
to put this on calendar to have you on after you go to Monaco for F1.
Yeah,
because I want to hear just like
I
what
might just
Monaco
stay,
is like.
bro. I might just be there
Yeah,
forever.
we'll come on,
Europe
we'll
might
travel-
keep
we'll
me
travel
one of
there.
these summers
We're
forever.
doing an interview at Casino Royale.
Yeah,
or whatever that
seriously,
one is,
seriously.
Where they
Yeah.
filmed James Bond.
Yeah,
That would be.
What'd you think of Amsterdam?
days.
It's my favorite city that I visited.
Really?
But not for all the reasons, right?
Yeah.
Whatever. Well,
for
for
the same
some
reasons you like it.
for a lot of.
I thought, I'm like, without the degeneracy, I don't know if I would have liked it.
So I actually, there's plenty of degeneracy, and that was obviously fun for whatever. But I found that the people, I really clicked with the vibe of the entire city, where there's not a lot of flash, especially with the barbell of Miami. Not a lot of flash. Everyone walks everywhere.
bikes. Oh my God. dude.
Everyone bikes and
many
walks.
bikes.
There's just natural beauty across the board. There's no desperation. Everyone's kind of content with what they're doing. So it's very communal. I spent a lot of time in parks, and the gyms there's this one gym called Trainmore
Yeah.
that had like 10 of them across the city, and every single one of them was better than any gym I'd ever been to.
There was one by my hotel, too.
Right. So I locked in when I was there for a month. And the first like 3 days, I was like, yeah, like whatever, I'll go do all the Amsterdam stuff. And then I was there with my buddy George, who's on Twitter as well. And we had a nice workflow where we'd wake up, we'd work all day at a cool coffee shop, work out, and then walk through the city, go to a park, eat steak. Like the fact that
Yep.
You could do that with perfect weather. That was why I liked it so
Do you ever
much.
go to the lookout, the dam lookout? I thought that was the coolest.
No. What is that?
Right across the river. It's like a 25-story building.
Oh, no, I
you
didn't
go
do
to
that.
the top and
I
you can
didn't
see
do
the
that.
whole city.
Have you been to Ireland?
I've not been to Ireland. That was my first time in Europe. So
Gotcha.
I went for what I thought was going to be 2 weeks. And then I had Cole, my business partner, he had his bachelorette party with his wife in Greece
Nice.
Oh, fuck.
at the end of August. So here I am, like first week of July. And then I know I had to be back in 6 weeks. And I looked at the weather in Miami. I'm like, fuck that. So I just stayed the whole summer out of nowhere. I was like, what's the point of me building this thing on the internet if I can't work for an entire summer in a different city? And that was the first time really in 3 years that I took, it wasn't wake up at 5 a.m., get to that desk and absolutely grind. And the fact that the business still grew, all that happened was very interesting to kind of say, what does it look like to remove yourself from the day to day?
Reassuring.
Yeah,
Reassuring.
exactly.
For sure.
Dude, my favorite activity was just watching bicyclists. There's thousands.
I didn't ride a bike one time because
No, like little cars, just bikes.
it's
The
fun.
bike lanes are like traffic jams.
Traffic jams. So I would just post up with my espresso at like 8
Yeah.
a.m. and watch all these people go to work and they just fly through the lanes,
And they
bro.
drive recklessly on the bikes.
Yeah, I didn't ride a bike one time for that reason. I was
Yeah.
like, they're dropping hand signals that they're
They have
turning.
to
I'm
ride
like,
away over people.
Yeah, bro, I was out on that, but it looked fun.
Awesome.
All right, we're gonna put a bow tie on it.
Hell yeah.
That was fucking
Bikes.
great.
Dude, this was
a lot
good.
of fun.
Loved it.
All right,
Lot of
fellas.
fun.
Hey, thanks for having me, and good luck with all
Absolutely,
those
bro.
other ones, bro.
Great stuff.
Yeah, we'll have to do another one in Tampa too, because I'll be back around.
Yeah,
Yes,
cigar
sir.
lounge. Cigar lounge.
Boom.